Okay, I see it as 5 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. This is a whole new way, so let's make sure that if you have your hands up, I can see them. That'd be great. And this is the 32nd meeting of the 142nd Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And we'll start off with any disclosures of interest from any of the members. Seeing none, we'll go to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on October the 3rd, 2022 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments from the members? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
Your worship, council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee this evening is strategic direction and development. The one item on the agenda is notice of a public meeting to take place by teleconference from the Committee of Adjustment. The meeting will take place on October 27th at 10 a.m. and it's regarding an application for consent by Agrico Canada Limited to permit a lease in excess of 21 years with 283607 Ontario Inc. relating to the property at 263 Edward Street.
Okay.
Your worship, unless the members have any topics under strategic direction and development. Your worship, I see no hands up. We'll now move into community engagement and services. First item on the agenda relates to health recruitment partnership. Dr. Anthony Azepwe. I have a motion that report ADM 2822 relating to the recruitment of the doctor be received for information, and further that council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a health recruitment partnership agreement with Dr. Anthony Azepwe for the provision of $33,000 in HRP incentive funding. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sand, second by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments from council? Seeing no hands, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried.
Your worship, no further items unless there are any items from the members. And seeing none, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to a tender award for the Pinafore Park Court restoration. I have a motion that report PR 1722 relating to the Pinafore Park Court restoration tender award be received for information, and further that council approve the award of this contract to Court Surface Specialists Limited in the amount of $255,000 excluding HST, and further the council authorize accessing additional funds from the annual sports field maintenance account in the amount of $55,000 excluding HST to complete this project. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments from council? Councillor Wookey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just hoping to hear from Mr. Bray about this. You know, these courts weren't that old and they cracked. And I'm just wondering what these folks are going to do differently than is previously in the ground so we can avoid the same thing happening again. If I could get some comment. Thanks very much.
Mr. Bray.
Thank you, Mayor Preston, through you. Thanks, Councillor. We did do some investigation and we're hopeful that this methodology that we're proposing will seal the cracks. We're going to level out all the bird bass, for lack of a better term. We're using a fiberglass mesh to cover the entire court, and then the appropriate surfacing that was originally applied will be put on top of this. These people, we did our investigation on the company that does this. They had good reviews. They rehabilitated courts at other locations, and so they've been around.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wookey. Councillor Herbert, did I see your hand?
Yes, you did. I had actually the same question as Councillor Wookey. I just wonder, you answered the second part of it where you said you did some investigation on other work that this company has done.
Yep.
But is there an expectation this is going to last more than 5 years or 10 years, or is this something that's going to be every 10 or 15 years we have to do?
Thank you, Mayor Preston, through you. We're hopeful it's going to last at least 10 years. Through our investigation, there was another method that we could have gone, but it would have been much more expensive. So we're going this route.
Second question, your worship.
Go ahead.
What about the tennis courts? Are they a different texture than the pickle courts? Or are they the same type of material?
They're all, it's the exact same material. The only difference is the court lines and the size of the courts.
Are there problems with the tennis courts too or not?
Cracking seems to be, there's some very bad areas, but it's throughout the whole court.
So is that
course.
something you would fix now too, the tennis courts?
Yep, we're doing the entire site. Yes,
Thank you.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Further questions from council? And I guess I better say, Councillor Peters, I can't quite see you unless you put your hand out in front of you. So there we go. That's better. All right. Was that a yes? You have a question or? No.
Not on this, but I have two items, new business that I'll raise after we deal with it.
All
On
right.
this,
So on this topic, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And since Councillor Peters already told me he has two new items of business, we'll go to him first.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have two items of new business. I just would hope to get some clarification. The first one concerns permitted parking lots in the city. Most of the lots are marked, whether it's 2-hour parking or permanent permits. But my question is after hours and on weekends, and I'll use Thanksgiving weekend as an example, could a family have used the old Works Yard lot, which is 100% permits? Could a family have safely used that lot and not have had any fear of tickets? So I'm just curious about after hours on weekends with permitted lots.
Well, thank you, Councillor Peters. Do we have Mr. Lawrence there today?
Your worship, I'm here filling in for Mr. Lawrence today. Through yourself to Council Peters. Thanks for that question. From my knowledge of those permitted parking lots, outside the hours from which the parking is displayed, parking can happen at those lots for anyone to use, similar to what you have at White Street for, like, say, the power alley. Outside the hours posted, someone else can park in the parking lot with no issues as long as they're out by that time in the morning, I guess. So.
Thanks very much, and appreciate the answer to that question. My next question is for Jeff Bray. Last year, we had a successful ice rink, outdoor ice rink installed up between W.S. Morrison and Locks. It's a couple years that that's been done now. Today is not a day to be thinking about ice, but I was thinking about ice today. I would appreciate a report back on how, is there a way to expand the outdoor ice rink initiative to look at other locales around the city? And my memory serves me right, that ice rink at Morrison really didn't, it was late in the season by the time it was installed. And are there things, if we could expand the program for outdoor ice rinks, is there a way that we could start to look at putting some infrastructure in better weather so that when it comes time to start flooding and taking advantage of cold nights? But I just see it as something that has been popular up in the north end, and is there a way to do more? So I'm not fully looking for an answer tonight, but I wouldn't mind a report back on it and your thoughts on, is there a way to expand outdoor ice rink program?
Mr. Bray, can you get something back to us on that?
Certainly, Mayor Preston, and through you, I'd like to respond. That was late in the season. Doug Terry Homes, they were very generous. They were the ones that initiated the rink last year, and that didn't really come up, the whole thing organized until, remember, it was January or February. Staff have, Doug Terry Homes have reached out again to staff already. So we've had meetings with them to review the site. The fire department's on board again to assist with the flooding. So we hope to get this up in a more timely manner this year. I'm happy to come back with a report on a more fulsome program throughout the city.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bray. And I agree with Councillor Peters. The sooner the better, probably, because there may be more we can do in the fall to be ready for the winter. Did you have anything else, Councillor Peters?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other Councillor Herbert, I see your hand.
Thank you, Worship. Since the topic was ice skating for a second, I've had quite a few people in the Lake Margaret area ask me, are we allowing skating on the ice this year? Will people be able to skate? I don't need to know anything tonight, but would that be part of your report on safety on the ice and how to tell when to skate and stuff like that? Because they want to play hockey and they want to skate. So
It certainly will. We have no method of controlling people on Lake Margaret, as you're aware. So my only concern there is public safety, really.
that's fine. I just thought it'd be an opportune time to clear the air for a lot of people. So I had one husband tell me he has an auger. He goes to the edge of the thing and he drills it down. When it goes down far enough, he tells his kids he can skate.
Mhm.
He's doing
Well,
it on his own.
That's very responsible. I wish more people took that approach because I've heard reports of people actually falling through the ice. Thankfully, there's been nothing severe.
Yeah, I'll leave that with you to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from council or questions?
Your worship, Councillor Kohler has a question.
Okay, Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I actually thought Councillor Peters was going to bring up my item. This is actually for the permitted parking lots. I've been contacted by a few people, I guess, with the elimination of the lot across the street with the daycare going there. Apparently, they've been having some issue finding parking sometimes during the day to access the library. And they've noticed that the Scott Street parking lot, that's total permit, always has empty spots that are in there. And they were just wondering if it was possible that we could have 2 or 3 spots dedicated there for 2-hour parking for those days that they can't find parking to get to the library. Because they said when it's always full here, that one seems to always have openings, but it's total permit. And I've actually gone by it to see quite a few empty spots during the day. So I wasn't sure if that was possible or not.
Let's ask.
Through the mayor to Councillor Kohler, I'm not exactly sure of the status of the entire Scott Street parking lot. I believe it's all permitted. So I don't know what capacity we have promised out, and maybe some folks are just not there. That's why you see the spots at the time, or if there's possible openings even at like Hiawatha, there could be some spots there as well. So we can certainly look into that and see if there's an opportunity for that though. But I just would like to see what we have already in place or set aside for Scott Street, because I know that has been fairly full of staff due to the shuffling of parking spaces around from Lower St. Catherine Street, putting folks over there. So I do believe it's pretty full, or at least promised out.
Okay, if a report maybe could come back with that, because I do notice it quite often empty during, not empty, but quite a few spots where we could easily probably put two spots in there. But just, yeah, if a report could come back, that'd be appreciated. Thanks.
Perfect. Anything else from council?
Your worship, if there's nothing further, we can now move into corporate governance and administration. And while there isn't anything on the agenda, your worship, if you wouldn't mind, if I can just have a couple words about the election process.
That'd be perfect. It's on my agenda, so I was going to ask you either way. So please go ahead.
Perfect. So I would just like to advise that at 10 a.m. this morning was the beginning of the voting period. Begins at 10 a.m. today and it ends on October 24th at 8 p.m. Basically, people can vote 24/7 between the hour of 10 o'clock and then 8 o'clock on the 24th. As of 4:30, I had a quick peek and noticed that we had 590 votes already, which is terrific. And also just letting the members of the public know, if you don't have your voter information letter, please call customer service so that we can look into it. 631-1680 and then press 0. There may be, we've had 1 or 2 calls from individuals who have received more than 1 voter information letter for themselves. After we looked into it, it was determined that they had made a change using our amendment form after September the 14th. For anyone that has made a change after that time period, that was the cutoff for our third-party provider to send out the voter information letters. So when the clerk's office sends out the voter information letters, we print off a new letter. As soon as we print off a new letter, that old one is voided so that PIN actually does not operate, just in case anyone has a question about that. And then in addition to being able to vote at home or at any place that has an internet connection or a telephone, just a reminder that we do have mobile voter help centers. The first one will be this Saturday at Elgin Center from 12 till 4. The next one after that will be at the Senior Center on the 18th. The third one will be at Locke's School from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the 20th. And then on the 22nd, we will be back at the Elgin Center from 12 till 4. And then finally, we will be open at the library from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. on October 24th. Don't feel that you need to wait until October the 24th because you can vote at any point in time from this point forward. And as I've mentioned, we've had just under 600 voting just up until 4:30.
That's
Your
great.
worship, I believe that's all that I have unless anyone has any questions.
Well, Counselor Clark has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Maria. I was just wondering if she could let the public know why there is kind of some lags on the voters list. For example, I got one at our address for our son, and he hasn't lived here in 20 years. And so people are kind of upset that the city doesn't have an up-to-date list. I was just wondering if she could provide some details of how that process unfolds and what data we're actually using and where it comes from.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Clark. Our preliminary list of electors is prepared and forwarded to us from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. The enumeration basically is fairly accurate for owners. There's no enumeration that takes place for boarders or tenants. And so we don't have as accurate of information as we possibly could have. I'm suspecting that in 2 years' time, when we move from MPAC to the provincial government's voters list, that we'll have a rather up-to-date list. And we should no longer have folks that haven't lived at your place for 20 years. I've had the same with my daughters. I've actually ensured that they are removed from the 2018 list and they reappeared like magic on the 2022 list. And so we've been trying to encourage, for this particular year, we made an extra effort to encourage people to have a look at the voter lookup website because it was very quick and easy to move people around. There wasn't the greatest uptake. I suspect people were waiting. Maybe they were more concerned about the provincial election. And so we didn't have as many changes as I would have liked to have seen made directly on the MPAC site. But I'm hoping, and it's the prayer of all clerks, that the voters list is going to be as accurate as possible for the 2026 election.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And we have heard some of that when we've been out there with voters. Anything else under this committee? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you. Yes, Your Worship. I have a question for Maria. I've had people ask me when they show up, for instance, this Saturday at the mall, what type of documentation do they have to have before do they just show up with the PIN number and can vote, or do they have to prove that's their? I suggested a passport, but I said I wasn't 100% sure. So,
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Anyone that has a voter information letter can go directly to a kiosk. those individuals that need to make a change or need to be added should bring some form of ID. And the list is rather voluminous. So if they just want to have a peek at our website to see what kind of ID they can bring, but otherwise, those that have the voter information letter can go directly to the kiosk, just as though they were in their own home.
Okay.
Your worship, I believe Councillor Baldwin Sands had a question as well.
Well, thank you. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. It was the same.
All right, good,
Appreciate the response. Thank you.
perfect. Other questions of the clerk? Seeing none?
Your worship, unless the members have any further items for corporate governance, we'll now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council in committee of the whole as recorded in the minutes of this date be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees this evening, your worship. There is one item under petitions, and that's a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the Rotary Club. I have motion that the council of the city of St. Thomas proclaim October 24th, 2022 as World Polio Day in the city of St. Thomas, and further that the Rotary flag be flown at City Hall on October 24th, 2022, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held at City Hall on October 24th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Burgess, second by Councillor Rymal.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Your worship, unless there are any items of petitioner communication, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. And seeing no hands up, your worship, we'll now move into new business of council.
I have one item and to remind the folks at home and anyone watching that there's a budget survey taking place right now from our Treasury Department. It's on the city website. It's also on all city social media. I took it the other day. It's about 2 minutes long to take it. So please, if you see it and want to be part of what we're looking at from a budgeting going forward in 2023 point of view, please take the survey. It's available on our website and on social media till October 31st. And as I said, it should be perhaps 3 to 5 minutes in length for you to take it. So great information from citizens about budgeting. And I have nothing else.
Thank you, your worship. At this time, we'll move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 11th day of October, 2022.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This is to remove a holding symbol at 1055 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to adopt Community Improvement Plan Amendment Number 1. This relates to an exception to add a portion of 1029 Talbot Street to the primary CIPA, subject to the conditions included in the amendment.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 3 bylaws.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions and comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Your worship, and now move over into public notice. First notice relates to the 2023 sewage service rate, fees, and charges. Notice is hereby provided that administration intends to introduce a report and bylaw at the October 17th, 2022 council meeting relating to proposed 2023 sewage service rates, rate, fees, and charges. And also, notice is provided that administration intends to introduce a report and bylaw at the same meeting relating to the proposed 2023 water consumption rate, water supply fees, and charges. And the third notice relates to the fact that a public meeting will be held on October 17th as per section 391 of the Municipal Act to recover the costs associated with the water and sewer services along Southdale Line from the 2020 construction of the road. Your worship, no notices of motion at this time. There is a need to move into closed session. Your worship, I believe we can complete closed session before the two meetings, public meetings that begin at 6 o'clock. And so I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and a labor relations matter. Moved by Councillor Rymal, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Okay, before I call for the vote, I'll remind the folks at home and those watching us and streaming that we'll be moving now into closed session. We'll come back in time to run two public meetings at 6 o'clock, but this should be the finish of council tonight. We'll rise from closed session in time to be able to go to do the public meetings. So thank you for joining us tonight, and all those in favor of moving to closed session. Any opposed? That's carried. Members of council, you have a closed session link. If you're not in the room, if you're in the room, you'll still be there for the closed session.